This is a demonstration of how a government can use our advanced survey platform to capture more in-depth details from their citizens. This is an example of the City of Calgary's website where we've demonstrated our tool. You can see that we've simply injected a button on the website that brings up a configurable widget that citizens can engage with. So this gives a lot of details to the user so they can understand what the city is doing and why. But this could be for suggestions, complaints, praise and recognition, maybe a real-time engagement, which is what we'll actually demonstrate, something that's happening at the moment that they want to get feedback from citizens and stakeholders. Could be also internal stakeholders only if you wanted to, or community insights, things that you might not actually even know to ask for or ask about. So as an example, in this demo, you can provide just a general feedback to the city or specific hot topics that the city knows are specific areas that they would like feedback on at that moment. This can be completely configurable in real time by adding or removing these in the back-end interface by the city. We'll use an example here of a live event that was just happening, and it was the Wave Tech Center launch. So it was an innovation environment that the municipal government had launched, and our technology is employed there to listen to stakeholders in the community as well as within the city on how important innovation is to the city. I'll walk you through as an example, but all of this is configurable, including how it looks and the languages used and supported. Okay, so this is what the kiosk looks like that's installed at the Wave Tech Center currently. And a person would go into there's a little booth set up the person can go into, and they would start the interview. We'll go through that now.
Welcome to Calgary's Wave Tech Center attendee survey. Our personalized AI agent, Jeff, will join and kick off the session in a moment.
Welcome. Bienvenue. Bienvenido. Maligayang pagdating. Swagak hey. Thank you for participating in this interview today. My name is Jeff Landstrom, and I'm here to explore your insights about the future of innovation in Calgary, particularly focusing on the newly launched Wave Tech Center. Our conversation is completely anonymous, but you can share your name with me to make this interaction more personal. I understand several languages, so if you wish to conduct this interview in a language other than English, please let me know. For now, I'll start with the first question. Why do you think innovation is important to Calgary's future?
I think it's very important because any government that's responsible for the general well-being of their citizens from an equal opportunity perspective really needs to be constantly evolving to be part of that future.
Just a moment, please, while I prepare my next response. This will take a few seconds. Thank you for sharing that insightful perspective. It seems you believe that maintaining relevance and preparing for change are key drivers for innovation in Calgary's future. Now, let's drill down into your thoughts on the newly launched New Wave Tech Center. What do you think of the New Wave Tech Center, especially in relation to how it might support innovation for Calgary?
Yeah, sure. I think the Wave Tech Center is a really prudent use of public funds. Okay, so very personable interview. However, the real value is in the way we're able to extract the data. So the problem with standard surveys is that we quite often capture free form or qualitative data from people. So we'll ask them a question such as, how do you feel about this situation? Very satisfied to very unsatisfied. Those types of questions. Those qualitative questions are then aggregated by someone and turned into quantitative values, suggesting that if many people or most people have these qualitative feelings, that we can make a strategic decision off of them. And the reason that's difficult for government is because we don't know the nuances of why people made the statements or perceptions that they did. So this dashboard is something that's typically not available directly from a standard type of survey. You would need a focus group, which is typically $150 to $300 per interview, to be able to generate this data, where ours can make it for pennies on the dollar. And so what are you seeing here? This is a dashboard that shows the current Wave Tech Center's priorities, the top 3 reasons that this division has a budget and a mandate. What you'll notice is we didn't ask any questions about integration of emerging technologies or safe experimentation and rapid prototyping or collaborative partnerships and capacity planning. However, with the questions we did ask, we're able to analyze those answers and pull out the way that people talk about the Wave Tech Center and about innovation, if their language that they use and the perceptions that they have, whether they align with what the Wave Tech Center's priorities are. What this helps you understand, imagine that this was the public responding, and we were understanding thousands or tens of thousands of citizens and their alignment with particular government programs. And the language that they're using can be defined through blind spots. So we know we might be doing the right thing as the government, but we're not communicating it using the correct words because the populace isn't hearing it that way. Give you an example. These are small samples that we pulled just so we don't divulge any privacy. But this, at the largest sample size of the data we have from 140 surveys, is lower than the other 2. People don't think about safe experimentation and rapid prototyping when they're thinking about the amazingness of innovation. However, this is one of the most important aspects for any government's innovation. So what could they do? Very easily, they could put up marketing posters as you walk into the Wave Tech Center or onto city property or on a commercial or on their website that says, "Welcome to a safe experimentation rapid prototyping space," or "Our city, the best place for government and private industry and academia to come together for safe experimentation and rapid prototyping." What does that do? It starts to set the language that you want the populace to realize that you are focused on. Or if it's a blind spot, maybe it's something that you're actually doing, but the language that the public is expecting it in is not the language that you communicated in. So it seems like you're not being heard or the citizens are not being heard. And so this is data that is typically never available from survey data. All of the other responses to the questions are available in standard form where you can go and say, what was the answer for every one of those questions? This is the data that's available on top of that. Let me show you one aspect that's actually even deeper. This is the data that we're able to generate that is not possible at scale in any other solution today. These are over 300 different data points or metrics that were captured from the surveys performed. What were people talking about? What was their perception of how the government is doing today relative to that data point? And what was their expectation if shared, right? Complaints are typically, I'm upset with the current value. And praise is typically talking current value. But what we want to be able to do is for really good engagements, understand what was it that people were expecting. So access to cutting edge technology is believed to be limited at the moment, but we expect that to be extensive. And the most interesting part in the questions we ask and the way that we navigate the conversation is we're looking to understand who they believe the accountable party is. What does that mean? Who do they believe is the authoritative voice in the government that's responsible for these values? So it's almost like a satisfaction survey for this role, if it exists in your government, or the perception of what role is supposed to be responsible for these. That helps in a few ways. One is to redirect through marketing or campaigns who the authoritative voices are for the most important aspects of the state. But it's also allows you to understand, and I'll show you in a moment, when particular metrics or data points require multiple accountable parties or different divisions in the government to work together to make the change. So this is raw data at the moment. We don't really go much further in this demo on the modification of this data. And what I mean by that is that economic diversification was mentioned 29 times, but we didn't aggregate that with capitalization. So there's another 8 there, and there's some more elsewhere. But you can expect that when the survey is done, it's still actually live right now, we finalize and aggregate the data, and that pulls all of the mentions into a single bucket. Why does this help? If you know what people believe or have perceptions of in your populace or your stakeholders, what they believe is the current state and their expected state, you can generate a SWOT analysis. The strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats that are likely perceived by the most amount of people in your population. And then what the target SWOT would be based on what their expectations or perspectives are on what the government should be doing on those same metrics. So this is still all raw data, but this goes through all of the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. What's really interesting is that if you know the data point and you know the current state versus target state, and you know the authoritative voice or voices relative to those metrics, and you've generated a SWOT analysis on what is the current or status quo and what is the target SWOT analysis, you can generate a very smart recommended strategy. We don't believe that AI should be generating your strategies, but it can very quickly give you a focus on what needs to happen, to what metrics, by when, to achieve a specific outcome that has been identified. And this is a cross-department effort, as you can see here. And the goal of this is to be able to get you to a point that is near impossible to do today. What is the most important things we need to work on or give perception that we are focused on in the language that resonates most with the people that see that as important. So I'm going to give you one more kind of deeper insight here. This is an example of a single engagement, so a single interview, the different responsible parties or accountable parties that were mentioned or inferred and the metrics that would align with them, right? So if I'm the human resources manager, job opportunities was really important, but we can see there was no current or expected. So the person brought up human resources, but never complained or gave a value of it. Since this was a short survey intended to be a demonstration within the space, we didn't extend the survey to go as long as people were willing to talk. We cut it off at about 5 minutes. So in practice, this would actually go in and try and see if the person would give any values. So we can see they were talking about moderate influence, I'm not going to show the actual question and answers that are applicable here, just from a privacy perspective, but the HR person could look at why was my role brought up, and she could dive into that and see what the questions were and the answers were that were relative to there. But if we know those metrics, we can also come up with what are the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats in the current state from this perspective. What is the target state based on just this conversation and the data we have available? You can see that there's still threats anticipated, but it's a move from A to B, right? And when we look at the larger strategies, we can aggregate those together and go, there's other areas that are addressing competitive position, but in this case, we're seeing we want to move from this concept of what our weaknesses and threats are to this being our weaknesses and threats if we're addressing these strengths and opportunities. And then very specifically, what are the ways in which we could move from current to target? This is data that is best used for government and large enterprise and NGO strategy design. It is near impossible to get without a sophisticated system like IAXOV's UNIFYZE platform. I hope that was helpful and look forward to more conversations. Thank you so much.